Good evening. I want to, it always does that.
No, I'm so sorry.
Good evening. I want to welcome everybody to another workshop in our Money Matters series here at Family Promise of the Verdugos, talking about smart money decisions and personal finance, and just continuing to take steps to better manage our money and our financial household. Teaching your kids smart money skills. I love talking about this topic of teaching our kids about money skills because I've had quite a number of years of experience with it, having been a high school teacher in the past. I tried to incorporate teaching high school kids about money into my economics class, and not just even broader economics, but personal finance. And, as a financial planner, I have so many conversations frequently with people my age and older, and even younger adults. As people sort of get out into the working world and they got to hold a job and they got to pay bills and they got to budget and take care of their finances, people tend to sort of look back in hindsight on everything that they most of the time people will say, gosh, Brian, why didn't we get this in school? Why didn't people teach us how to manage our money? Why didn't people teach us about concepts of saving and budgeting and taking care of ourselves and our resources? Yes, for good or bad, whether our parents maybe didn't talk to us, or whether it was once we got to adulthood, maybe we just didn't sort of get the concepts of it. But I really do think that in some way our education system here in America is definitely lacking when it comes to personal finance education. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this tonight is that if you have kids, no matter how old they are, I think there is a huge important task as parents for us to educate our kids about dealing with money, so that when they do get to adulthood, they know how to set up a budget. They know how to open up a retirement account. They know how to manage their credit and their debt, and they know about credit scores and credit history, and sort of building on maybe our mistakes, building off of where we left off, sort of giving them more information and more know-how and just more mentoring to sort of make up for what school doesn't give them and doesn't provide them. So that's really why it sort of seems to fall to us as parents to teach our kids about money. And so tonight I want to go over how to explain money and the concepts of money to children of any age. And if you are a parent, what you should be looking out for in terms of what you could do, how you could begin to educate your children about dealing with money. It's not easy. It's definitely a challenging task. There's a lot of little ins and outs and nuances with managing and making money. So sort of where do you even begin? I think a good place to begin is just talking about the concept of money to our children. A survey was put out not too long ago, 2018, a financial firm, T. Rowe Price, which is a broker and a manager of funds and investments and so on, did a survey of parents and kids as it relates to money. And they surveyed 18 to 24-year-olds. So basically, sort of the older teens to the early 20s that had just come out of high school and college. And they did a survey about money matters and asked these 18 to 24-year-olds about their financial education and how they grew up learning about money. And what's sort of interesting here on our slide is this bar graph here that talks about how many people either agreed or disagreed with some of these concepts. My parents often emphasized the importance of saving money. 78% agreed with that their parents, they grew up with parents saying that they needed to save. That's a high figure. I'm glad that showed that at least these 18 to 24-year-olds had parents that were telling them to save their money. I'm good with money and finances. 73% thought that they were good with managing their money. That's decent. But from there, you can sort of see the percentages dip. My parents let me manage my own money when I was a kid. A little bit less, 67% said parents let them manage their own money. Once I had to start dealing with real about 54% agreed that they knew a lot less than they thought. And now that high number is not a good thing anymore. So parents were educating about saving, parents were educating about money, but then once these kids got into early adulthood, then they realized maybe perhaps they didn't know as much as they thought. I spend too much of my money going out and on the things I don't need. 55% agreed with that, right? So they still know, these 18 to 24-year-olds still know that they have room for improvement. I'm more conservative with my money than my parents. 53% said yes. My parents fought about money a lot when I was growing up. Almost half, 42% of those people surveyed said I saw my parents fighting about money. Talking about money was taboo in my family when I was growing up, 33%. So a third of the recipients said, gosh, we didn't even talk about it. Take a second and maybe just think about, gosh, when was the first time? When was that? Maybe in your childhood of sort of understanding and recognizing the concept of money. If you just think about your earliest recollection and memory of money, when was that? What was happening? For me, I think my earliest memory of my parents dealing with money is back in the day, pre-internet, pre-apps, pre-electronic banking. My dad would have a day of the week where he would sit down at the dinner table and he would lay out all of his bills, all stamps. And I don't even know how old I was. I must have been 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range to recognize that my dad was doing adult things. He was paying the bills. And that's sort of my first memory. I don't really remember if I knew what money really meant. I probably just thought, that's my dad doing adult things that adults do. I have no real idea what that even means. And so it's really important to educate our kids on just the concept of money. And what money is beyond just paying bills and sorting papers. And you really sort of have to start simple. In the most basic sense, right? The concept of money is really just the payment for goods and services. It's how you get stuff. My own kids, I have 2 kids of my own. I remember when they were just toddlers. I hadn't talked to them about money yet, but I think they thought that for some reason, money just, I don't know, just sort of magically appeared. And they knew that money was how you get stuff. That was how you get food. It was how you got, I don't know, toys at Target or wherever. And I distinctly remember my daughter wanting something in the toy aisle. It must have been at Toys R Us before they closed. And I said, well, Daddy doesn't have money for that right now, so maybe another time we'll think about getting that. And I distinctly remember her, she's probably 6, 7, saying, well, Dad, you could just go to the ATM. So she knew that money came out of the ATM. She knew that money could be used to get something, buy something. But where the disconnect was for her was that she just thought I could go to the ATM anytime and get money. So she still hadn't really sort of processed that to have money, you have to have the job to make the money, and you have to have money in the bank in order to be able to take it out of the ATM to be able to buy the toy, right? So even early on, kids are starting to try to like formulate and put these things together. So I think it helps early on if you're talking to kids about, look, money is the way in which we pay or use it to get the things that we need, the services that we need, the food that we need. We pay the rent to live in this apartment, to have a roof over our heads. That's what money is. But then also too, that money is earned. It's not just something that grows on trees. It's not just something that magically appears. It's not just an unending amount of it for us. That we have, mom and dad, we have to go to work every day. We have to earn that money. We have to do our job so that we can have this money, so that we can go to the ATM, so that we can get the things that we need. Right? And I want to talk about how we can start talking about the concept of money actually at any age. So a lot of parents will wait for their kids to become teens. Maybe when they're a teenager, then they'll understand better. And then that's when I'll start talking to them about money concepts. But I don't think that we need to wait in order to teach our kids about money. Some of us have been raised to not talk about money. It's just we didn't see our parents talking about it, or in like some of this data, our parents fought about money. Money was always an issue, whether it was between our parents or we just didn't have money, and it was not something that we talked about in public or in front of other people. Let me just move this slide ahead. So notice here from the survey, that very same survey, over 30% of the people surveyed were at least 15 years old or older when an adult or a parent started talking to them about financial concepts, right? And that's typically when we think, okay, the brain is fully formed, and well, not even fully formed, but it's formed enough for them to understand the concepts of money. I think we'll have better outcomes for our kids if we start educating them earlier. Let me give you a couple of examples, depending on the age of your kids, or maybe you're an educator and you work with children. If we sort of look at it like this, oops. Let's say you have a toddler that's around 3. There are some basic things that you can do to start teaching them about money concepts. For example, coin identification, right? Start having them learn, right? What's the difference between the bigger coins, the smaller coins, the different colored coins? Maybe you allow, a younger toddler, one of your children, to trace coins on a piece of paper, color them, and then you repeat the names of them so that they gain familiarity with, this is a quarter, this is a dime, this is a nickel, this is a penny, right? Now, maybe they're not going to understand the value of those objects just yet, right? But at least visually, they can start identifying based on the different sizes or the colors, right? What each of those coins are. Something that I really like is to play store. Use pretend money, right? They're not old enough yet to play Monopoly or any other sort of board game, right? So maybe you take Monopoly money, or maybe you have some paper bills or something like that, play money, right? Use pretend money and have your kids buy items. Play make-believe, store, play imaginary store, right? And have your kids buy items of different values, just items that are found throughout the house. So you go around, grab a couple of different things, some toys from their room, some stuff from the kitchen, obviously not the knives, different things around the house. And you guys play store. They go to the store with you. They sort of understand what a store is and what that concept is. And maybe you play cashier and they're going to go buy stuff. And I'm sure you've even seen toys of cash registers and plastic foods and plastic household items that you could build a store out of, right? I think that's really fun. That's sort of the beginning phase of helping to teach a child that, look, money is used in exchange for these items that they're getting. And the only way that they can get those items is by having this money. Even around age 3, 4, coming into 5, you'll even see toy calculators and checkbooks. I don't think it's really necessary to teach a 3, 4-year-old to learn how to balance a checkbook. That's not what I'm saying. But I think a toy calculator, maybe while you're paying bills, or maybe you are doing some adulting, right? You're going to the ATM, you're doing banking or whatever. Just having your child have a toy calculator and just sort of pretend to play along with how that works is good sort of introduction into seeing what mom and dad do and can I be big like mom and dad too. As they get a little bit older into age 3 and 5, then you can start developing sort of the concept of saving. So we've already introduced them to how we get things, whether it's food or supplies or things that we need at the store. So at a little bit older of an age, as they move into pre-K, first grade, you can start having them learn about the concept of saving. So for example, saving, spending, and giving jars. So maybe you have 3 jars at home, right? Each one is dedicated to a different task for the money: saving, spending, and giving. Okay, so you educate your child or your student on the saving jar, right, is going to be for larger purchases, say like a toy. And the only way that a toy can be bought is if that saving jar has a certain amount of money or a certain amount of coins, right? Or if you don't even want to use money, something that I did with my own son is I used marbles. He was sort of more fascinated by the marbles than the coins, right? So when he would do what he needed to do, maybe he was being good, maybe we were in the middle of potty training or whatever, we would give him marbles. Maybe you do tickets, whatever your concept is, and you say we have to save a certain number in our savings jar before we can actually go out and get a toy. So just because you want one doesn't mean that we can just go get one, but you have to save up in that jar. And then the spending jar is going to be used for everyday expenses. So things like, I don't know, maybe food or snack items or something like that. Maybe that's where some of the marbles are saved, some of the coins are saved. And if we have a certain amount in there that can be used to actually buy something, then you can take your child and use the spending jar at the store and sort of make that connection between what you have in the jar and what they're able to purchase at the store. And then for the giving jar, The giving jar is setting aside and saving for, maybe it's somebody's birthday party. Maybe it's a sibling's Christmas present. Showing them that, yes, money is used for getting the things that we need. Money is used for saving things that we want. And then money is also used for taking care of others, the people that are important to us, right? So introducing that concept around first grade, pre-K, first grade, is a great way to actually have a child like physically engage with the saving, the spending, and the giving. I didn't have a bullet point for it, but I sort of ran it all together there. I apologize for that. But another thing that is really great for like first graders, that age, is turning your kitchen into an imaginary restaurant. So I remember my kids loved to take orders. So they would get a piece of paper, they would have a pencil, and they would come and take mom and dad's order because they would see it happening at a restaurant, right? A waiter, a waitress would come, take our order, and they would want to sort of copy that, right? And then you could take their order, right? And show them how they have to pay the bill for that food or for that service, right? So playing imaginary restaurant is fun. It's engaging them. It's helping them see and make sense of how adults are acting in sort of your everyday life and what they're experiencing, and then being able to sort of parrot that or copy that. And it makes them feel sort of bigger and smart because now I'm a big kid because I can do these things that I see adults doing, right? So taking your order, maybe they go and pretend to fix your food and they bring it on a plate, right? And then you pay for your food so that they could see how that works, right? They took your order, they brought the food, and now you're paying for it. As your child gets older into ages 6 to 10, here's where it may be a good idea as they get older to introduce them to the concept of banking and how a savings account works and how a bank works. That a bank is a place, right, where you could protect your money, right, where you can put your money and save your money. So we're moving on from the jars, and now we're introducing the concept of the bank, right? And the bank is going to be the place that has our money, protects our money, and that's where we go to use our money. So maybe you open up a savings account for them. At a majority of banks, checking savings accounts for minors have no fees, they're free. If your child is a little bit older, let's say they're in their teens and you're getting them their first checking savings account, you can have a debit card attached to that. But we'll get to that in a little bit as we sort of grow into helping them learn how to spend properly and use those funds that are at the bank. But just having them know that, okay, there is a place where I'm saving up my birthday money, I'm saving up my Christmas money, I'm saving my allowance. Okay, that's where my money is, that's where it's safe. Introduces them to that concept of banking. Another great concept to introduce at this age too is coupons. Now, we are sort of using less and less like physical coupons these days. We're not like cutting them out as often as we used to. A lot of that is sort of being done electronically in the store. We scan something, we have an app for it, we have a rewards card on our phone or something like that. But even showing them how saving money on purchases through the idea of coupons, right, is saving money. And sometimes if you just pick up a Sunday newspaper, right, where we typically get those thick sections of coupons, right, or even if it's from the coupons that are delivered to your mailbox, like on a monthly basis, and we just end up sort of trashing. Giving that to them, and having them actually like clip or look for and find where they can save on the things that they know that they use in the house, or food that you guys normally buy, or food that you eat, and showing them how that is using those is actually saving them money, still allows them to purchase and get the things that they need, but for at a lower cost. As they get older into ages 11 to 13, now we can introduce some more serious adult concepts of money, talking about budgeting. Okay. Depending on their age, they may be able to create their own budget so that you could sort of show them, okay, based on what you want to get, or based on how you're saving your money, right? They can begin to start to make the connections for how much do I have to save? If I have something that I want, and I make $10 a week in allowance, how long is it going to take me to save up for this item? And then start making those more sort of, okay, if I earn $10 a week and I spend 5 of it, and 5 of it then goes into savings, but I want this item that costs, I don't know, maybe they want a game and it costs $60. How long is it going to take me to save for that $60 item? Then they start piecing together, is it really worth it to wait that long and to save that much to that maybe I'll be sort of uninterested in a couple of weeks, right? Now they start understanding even more the concept of money and the value of money, because you're introducing this budget and the idea of time, the idea of having to work and earn and make the money in order to save it, in order to make the purchase, right? So now we're sort of doing more to connect the dots in their mind when we start teaching about budgeting. Another great thing at this age to do is, maybe you've been meaning to clean out some items, get rid of some stuff, make space, get rid of some old things. Maybe have a yard sale, do a garage sale. But when you do that, teach your kids how to place a value on the objects, on the items you're going to sell, so that they're in charge of determining, are we going to sell my remote control car for $1? Maybe not. It's probably worth more than that. What could we reasonably sell it for? Have them be in charge of figuring out with you how much the items in the yard sale should be sold for, and give them the opportunity to think through that, right? And then what's also great too, if they're old enough, 11 to 13, they definitely are. Maybe they're in charge at the garage sale of actually collecting money, making the change for customers, right? Making the sales and being part of the transaction. As I mentioned before, that's probably a good age to introduce a debit card. So the debit card could be connected to checking and savings, or it could be a debit card where you front load or load the debit card with a certain amount of money. So some parents would be like, oh my gosh, like if I give my kid a debit card, they're just going to go crazy. Walking home from school, they stop at 7-Eleven or whatever. They go to fast food or whatever, and they're just going to drain their account. Well, teen debit cards now allow you to monitor their spending, right? So you're notified and you're able to see every time they spend. You're able to see where they spent, how much, right? And there's also protections on the debit card as well, because a lot of parents worry, oh my gosh, my kid's going to lose this in the first week. I just know it. There are some debit cards that will change the PIN on the debit card on an ongoing basis. So there's no way that if somebody came across the debit card that they'd be able to use it in any way. But I think for the front loaded sort of debit cards where you can just put $25 on it and that's all that there is on it, it's a good way to help your child, your teen, sort of introduce them to, okay, look, you only have 25. You can use this card instead of carrying cash, but that's it. When you go through the 25, that's it. It's done. There's no bank account attached to it, right? You can, I'm sorry, somebody was going to say something. Okay, so yeah, you can also put limits on it as well. It's totally fully in your control. So it's not just something like we have as adults and kids could just sort of run wild with it. The other thing to do too, and this is something, I don't know about you guys, but I had no clue how to do taxes. I had no clue what taxes were. I didn't know how to do them for myself when I got my first job. I didn't even know how to do taxes when I had my first professional job. Just because my parents, for whatever reason, didn't want to show me how to do taxes, or my dad never showed me. So I sort of had to figure it out, right? So, you know, as they get up there into the teens, this is a good age period where as they become eligible for working, once they start making an income, maybe they're at a minimum wage job, you can teach them how to file their taxes come tax season. And even if it's not them physically doing the taxes on, you know, a free e-file or program or TurboTax or something like that, even if it's walking through the W-2 form, or walking them through their pay stubs and seeing what taxes are being taken out. And the reason we're going to do our taxes and report our taxes because we want to get some of that money back. Just those early basic concepts of going through how taxes work could be really, really helpful for teens. Even if you use a CPA, even if you use an accountant for your own taxes, or you have H&R Block file for you, whoever, taking your child with you, right? And having them go through the process of taking their W-2, any other information, and sitting with that person so that they can file their taxes, it's an important process. You would hate for your student to sort of get into college or into higher education or into their first job and still not know how to do their taxes. All of this sounds very stressful and is like an ongoing job. And it is, but that's parenting. Parenting is an ongoing job. Coming back to that survey, what do you wish your parents had discussed more with you? So almost half of those surveys said we wanted more info on credit and financing. How does borrowing money work? How do credit cards work? What's interest? How does that work? How do I invest? What's insurance? How does that work? Some of these sort of bigger concepts for older kids, super important during middle and high school years to start learning these things, right? And how that works. So the last sort of thing that I want to talk about is just make a couple of final points here, which is, I think the biggest thing that I've seen and the biggest thing that I've experienced myself with my own children is, one, you have to share your mistakes. The only way, and it's true, and sometimes it's a cliche, but it is very true. The only way that we can learn is from our mistakes. And the only way that our children can learn is if they understand that we've made some mistakes. So if we are not honest and we're just sort of quiet about money and we don't want to talk about it that much, then our kids aren't going to learn. But if we're talking about working and earning income, and if we're talking about what we spend and maybe what we owe and maybe some of the mistakes that we made as they get older, that can be helpful. So the worst thing to do is act as though you have it 100% figured out. I think it's best to be open and honest about it. Number two, I think something that a lot of kids don't understand is the value of compound interest. That when they save, when they invest, or even just have a savings account, that their money can make money, right? By growing in interest, and that compound interest builds wealth over time, right? Introducing them to that, even if their account earns less than 1%, it's helpful for them to see that money and the value of money have the power to build in compound interest. 3, show them how to budget, right? Again, even if you're not anywhere near perfect at doing your own budgeting, show them how potentially money can be budgeted as an adult, right? So even if it's in short blocks, it doesn't have to be sitting down with them every night and going over a spreadsheet and all this sort of thing. But maybe it's just during a vacation that you take. Maybe it's on a weekend. Maybe you take them somewhere and you say, okay, this weekend we are going to, I don't know, this museum or Legoland or wherever it is you're going to go. And you say, we have $50. That's our budget. That's what we're going to use for food or for a souvenir or whatever, right? Keep introducing, even in little sort of bite-size pieces, the idea of a budget. So our budget for this trip, our budget for this vacation, our budget for, hey, going to the store. Look, we're not spending any more than $10, right? You can use the $10, but that's all you're getting. You have to use it wisely, right? Or you could save that $10 for the next time, and then there will be another 10. So now you have 20, right? Introducing these concepts in sort of little short sort of snippets, right? That way it's not so intense and so aggressive. Let your kids make mistakes. I just had this happen to me 2 nights ago. So if you were here for the last workshop, when we were talking about higher education, you know, my son is a junior in college. And I got a notification one morning from Wells Fargo that he was negative in his student account. So this is money that he had a job for that he earned. And I got a notification saying his account was overdrawn, he was negative. And of course, Wells Fargo is going to charge him $35 fee because he has a negative balance. My immediate reaction was, I can't believe this kid. After all that I've tried to teach him, after all that I've tried to say to him, you know, here he is, negative. And he's now spending even more money because of this $35 charge, which should not be happening. He should not be using $35 of his hard-earned student money, right, to pay this stupid fee to a bank. So once I sort of calmed down, right, I had to just sort of remember, we just have to sort of let our kids have some experiences, whether it's buyer's remorse, whether it's being negative one time, you know, in order to learn. I can't protect him forever. And he's 20, he's an adult, and he needs to figure it out. So if I'm always covering for him, or if I'm the one that's always checking his account and looking, then he's just going to learn that, oh, dad's got it covered. Dad's going to always look out for me and watch out for me, versus taking ownership for it. So I sort of had to just sort of bite my tongue there with that and not get super mad with him, but just send him a text and say, dude, you're negative. You're not watching your account, and just sort of leave it at that and say, you know, you paid $35 for that mistake. I hope you don't want to make that mistake again. But let them make their mistakes. And then number 5, the big thing is, especially with money, especially in a society and a culture in a day and age where we're all about ourselves, individuals, and what we can get as much as we can and can as much as we can get, right? Sort of keep it all to ourselves. It's really important in all of this to teach our kids that they should give, they should be generous with their resources, and that the best thing to be is to be a helper, and that money is not necessarily to be hoarded. Yes, it's to provide the things that they need in their life, but at the same time, helping family, helping friends, helping, organizations that are important to them in their future, like that is a good money habit. That is a good use of money and their resources. So while it is sort of a big task for us as parents, as teachers, as adults, I think it's important. Kids look up to us as role models. So setting the good example, having a positive attitude about money, hopefully we can build just even one kid at a time, more financially responsible adults, and that our own kids don't have to go through maybe some of the struggles and the mistakes that we have, and they can be just that much better. And then they can teach their kids, and their kids could be that much better. Our grandkids could be that much better than us. And I think throughout all of that, money aside, it just builds stronger relationships in our households and with our kids. So I hope that this was helpful this evening. If you do have kids, or maybe you have grandkids, or I don't know, maybe it's even your neighbor kids where you're a role model, and maybe you're a guardian, or whatever your situation is, there are always people looking up to us. And so the way we communicate, the way we talk about money when kids are around us, it's important. And so there's always teachable moments, regardless of our situation. And I hope this was helpful in just maybe even helping you think, just sort of planting the seed of like, yeah, I don't know, my son is only 7 or whatever, and I was thinking maybe he was too young, but maybe I should start talking to him and introducing these concepts and making learning money about money fun. So next time, in 2 weeks from now, on October 28th, same time, 6 p.m. We're coming into the holidays. I can't believe this. But we're turning the corner here. We're almost to Halloween. We're turning the corner into Thanksgiving and Christmas. I want to talk about financial tips for surviving the holiday season, for getting through probably the 2 months where most households end up spending the most money between gifts, presents, food, gatherings, travel. I mean, this is the 2 months where a lot of our money goes out, and it's end of the year, right? And we always sort of wake up in the new year sort of with that remorse and guilt of like, oh my gosh, now I got to set, financial New Year's resolutions just because November, December just killed me. How can we survive the holiday season by preparing for expenses that we know are going to be coming up? How can we sort of protect our piggy bank for that? So that's going to be October 28th at 6 p.m. Lisa, in the meantime, next week, is there something programmed for next Thursday that you want to bring up?
Yeah, as far as workshops go, we're going to have another wellness workshop. Charlene will be presenting again. It's going to be on how meditation can reduce your stress. Obviously, life doesn't come with instructions, so sometimes we just need a little bit of time to, unwind and, take some time apart to be on our own and just, meditate a little bit and focus on, self-soothing, I guess. The other thing I wanted to announce for everybody is that on the 21st, Thursday, the 21st, we're going to be throwing a costume giveaway here by Robert E. Lundigan Park, right here on Naomi and Thornton. It'll be from 3 to 5. So everybody's welcome to come by and pick up a costume. And then on the 29th of October, which is a Friday, we're also going to be giving away, goodie bags for the kids, who are going to go trick-or-treating. So kind of like a pregame to Halloween. So I invite you guys to come by. It'll be October 21st, which is Thursday from 3 to 5 for the costumes, and then October 29th from 3 to 6 for the candy giveaway. Right?
Great. That sounds amazing. So
Mhm.
thank you guys to everybody for attending this evening. And like Lisa was talking about, I'll let you guys go so you can start de-stressing.
Okay.
Have a great evening, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.